It is my privilege this morning to introduce to all of you two amazing people, Eric and Meg. They're here today to share their journey from a lonely and isolated place to one of hope and healing. What is particularly remarkable to me about the two people you are about to hear from is that they want to help all of us combat stigma and seek help. They're willing to share their personal stories of overcoming stigma, shame, and trauma associated with suicidal ideation, having a mental illness, as well as the pieces they've put in place to begin their journeys of recovery individually and together. And they want to help others on our own personal journeys of recovery. You've got their bios in your packet, and I encourage you to read them. In the room today, we have crisis workers from the PRS Crisis Link hotline and text line. These are folks who are trained to talk about difficult topics that may come up. If you need a safe place today at any point to reorganize or collect your thoughts, please reach out to one of our team members in the orange shirts, and they are there with their Call Text Live shirts that say staff member on the back. Thanks, guys. As Brene Brown said, owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. Eric Provo and Meg Hawkins personify courage. Please help me welcome them.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Meg Hawkins. I'm actually local to Fairfax County. I've been here since I was 6 months old. Lived here, I should say. My husband is Eric Provo. We've been married for over 4 years. I currently live with depression and anxiety, and we're about to share our story, and we're very grateful to be here to do that. You'll hear a little bit more about myself later, but with my honor to introduce you my husband.
First, I want to say good morning to everybody, and thank you very much. We're very grateful and honored to be asked to come speak to everybody. So, as you see on the slide, we talk about married with PTSD, and to give everybody a little bit of background about myself. My struggle, my journey starts back when I was a very young man. I grew up in a household where both my parents were alcoholics. I suffered emotional, physical, and sexual abuse as a young child. So I like to refer to that as my 1,000 paper cuts of trauma. So at age 17, I realized I needed to find something better. So as most people in the military do, we come from broken homes, and we leave home to go to the military to find something that was missing. And I found that. I found brotherhood, I found family. So, as I said, I left home, I go to the military, everything's great. I have a very successful career, 20 years. I spent most of my time working in special operations. About 3/4 of the way through my career, in 2002, I was deployed overseas, and I was in a life and death situation. I had to take another individual's life, and during the situation, I had actually come to realize that I was going to lose my life. Fortunately, I was able to survive. I came home. The end of 2002, I'm home, I'm with my family. I think that things are going well. And within a month or two, I started having flashbacks, nightmares. I'm having the symptoms of post-traumatic stress. And I don't even realize what's going on. My behavior starts to become irrational, and it becomes a problem for not only me, my family, but also my coworkers. Within a year of being home, my now ex-wife decides that we need to separate, and it ultimately leads to a divorce. So in 2003, a year after being home from overseas, I'm now divorced, and I'm struggling with post-traumatic stress, and now I start to battle with depression because I've lost my daughter, and I've thought that I've lost basically my whole family through the divorce. And I'm thrown into the struggles of post-traumatic stress and depression. With these struggles came huge ups and downs, and it was a roller coaster that I really wasn't prepared for, and I didn't even really realize what was going on. As I was in this cycle of struggle. I would have great days where I was very, very high because I would just overdo myself as far as trying to work out or find something of pleasure. But when those things didn't last, I would bottom out and I'd go into the depths of depression and feel like I had nothing. I had nothing to live for. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize what some of my triggers were. I would be having good days, and then all of a sudden I'd be around an explosion, or a car would backfire, or I'd go to fireworks, or just even a random gunshot. These would all be triggers for me that would put me into a cycle and spiral me out of control. In 2003, as I said, I was battling depression very hard with the loss of my family, and this is when I attempted suicide for the first time. I got so depressed, and I was self-medicating with alcohol, which now I realize was probably one of the worst things I could do. And I was using alcohol to numb what little feelings I had left, and so one day I thought that if I took a bunch of pills, that the world would be a better place. Thankfully, it didn't work. And due to having a great support network where I worked, my command took me under the wing. I was put under supervision for about 48 to 72 hours to make sure I was no longer a threat to myself or anybody else. And life continued on. So that was in 2003. As I said, my initial incident, my major trauma was in 2002. So I continued on in the military after that until 2007, at which time I retired. And all during this time, I battled and struggled with post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, and then 4 years ago, I met this lovely lady. And we got married, and shortly after getting married, Meg realized that I had some issues. And I had told her when we first met that I struggled with post-traumatic stress. Never officially been diagnosed, but I just told her, from my time in the military, I had some baggage. But right away, Meg realized some of my behaviors were not normal. And when I say my behaviors, the symptoms that I had from post-traumatic stress, I would be on edge. I'd be very angry, irritable. When triggers would happen, I would be hypervigilant where I wouldn't sleep for 24 to 36 hours. I would always be on edge that the slightest thing would set me off. My sleep patterns, I went probably a decade where 2 hours of sleep a night was a good night of sleep. Because most of my nights when I did fall asleep, I was tormented with nightmares and flashbacks, so I really didn't want to sleep. In 2015, Meg finally said, hey, you've got to get help. And because of the way I was raised, and I think it was the reason I was so resistant up to that point, I said, I don't need help. I'm fine. I've got this. I come from an era, and I was raised in an environment of the suck-it-up mentality, where if my arm wasn't cut off, I didn't need to go to the hospital, put a Band-Aid on it, continue on. When I went into the military, that mindset, that mentality was just more and more reinforced. And so when I was in my struggles, I kept telling myself, and I listened to the stigma and what other people said, that if I admitted I had a problem, there was something wrong with me. I was weak. I was less of a man. I was less of a person. And I worried about what people would say or think or how they would look at me. And then I also worried about I would lose my job. Now I can look back and say it was probably one of the most ridiculous things I ever thought. So with Meg's encouragement, I finally got help. I went and talked to a licensed clinical social worker who helped me a little bit. But it really wasn't doing justice. And at the end of 2016, through a friend of ours, I finally got connected with a psychologist that specialized in post-traumatic stress. And I went and met with this lovely young lady, and she talked to me, and she said, yes, I think that we can help you. I think we can get you on the right track. So I said, okay, after the first of the year, we will start therapy in earnest once a week. Well, maybe it was just a little too late. January 7th, 2017, I've been struggling. And Meg and I had a simple disagreement. Not even an argument, not even a fight. A simple disagreement. My PTSD kicked in really hard. And I finally got to a point of giving up. Inside I said, I'm tired of fighting the battle. I'm tired of fighting the demon. I'm tired of seeing how I treat my family, how I treat my friends. And so after the disagreement, I stormed off, and I got in my car, and I drove away. I isolated. I turned off my phone. I made it so no one could find me. And I went and sat in the woods, and I wanted to commit suicide. I was in the darkest place ever, not thinking rationally, and all I kept thinking is, things will be better if I'm not here. I don't know what snapped me out of it. About 10 hours later, I started thinking about Meg. I started thinking about my daughter. And I realized I needed to get help, and things would not change for the better at all if I took my own life. So that's where the road to recovery started for me. Meg worked with me, and I initially started my true therapy to get better from post-traumatic stress. Now, that was in January of 2017, so we're talking a little over a year and a half ago. In the last year and a half, I've been through multiple different programs, one pretty much right after the other, that have just led to getting better and better and better, and making my life better. The first program I went through was cognitive-based therapy. It was a 12-week program with a psychologist that focused on the issues I was having with post-traumatic stress. At the end of that program, Meg and I were all okay. Things are a lot better. The nightmares were pretty much gone. I was sleeping better, not lashing out as much, not as angry. And my psychologist and I agreed that we could back off the amount of the appointments. And so instead of going every week, it backed off to every other week. Well, within a few months, I didn't realize it, because Meg's always been wanting to be able to see the symptoms long before I do. Meg started telling me, you're having symptoms again. You're getting irritable. You're getting angry. I noticed you're not sleeping. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And for the first time ever, I got into a disagreement with another individual, and a physical altercation took place. And that was a wake-up sign that maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. So I went back to my doctor, and I said, you know what, I think we need to ramp things back up again. So I started going once a week, and at the end of 2017, my doctor said I had bad news. My husband was being relocated, but I'm going to get you in with another doctor. So at the beginning of this year, I started prolonged exposure therapy. I did another 12-week period of therapy every week with a lot of homework. And at the end of that 12 weeks, Meg and I noticed that I had made huge headway. The prolonged exposure really had helped with the nightmares, the flashbacks. They seemed to have really subsided. And then in June this year, I was very fortunate. I was offered the opportunity to go to a 1-week veterans-based post-traumatic growth retreat, which really was the turning point, I think, for me. What this retreat taught me, and what the therapy's taught me for the last year and a half, is that whether it's post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, whatever I was battling with, they're chronic illnesses. And for me to get better, I had to make a commitment to stick to the program. I had to make my appointments and go every day, and there was going to be no magic pill or no magic doctor that I was going to go see once and everything was going to be better. retreat taught me ways or practices to help me deal with my anxiety, my post-traumatic stress, and it made me realize that I needed to change the habits and the way that I live my life. So things that I took away from that and have changed my daily routine is I try every morning now, I wake up, I meditate, I make sure that I get good physical fitness in to help get some of the stress off of me, and then I also realize that my eating habits. If I'm eating a well-balanced meal, good foods, that helps keep my mood and helps keep everything kind of in a level place. And then the other thing it made me do is it made me realize I need a good support network. So, not only do I have Meg, which is great, I can't just rely on my wife all the time to be there. I have a good support group of 7 other guys that are my close friends that we share every week. We hold each other accountable, and we're there when one of us is in struggle. I don't know if I could keep doing it without that support network. I think it's one of the most important things I have is other people that have been in the same place I've been in, and they don't judge me. All they're there to do is listen and help me get through the struggles. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Megan.
Eric still continues to see a counselor. He's still dealing with some depression and anxiety. From this experience, I learned as a spouse or significant other, and I'll probably say spouse because I'm a spouse, but your significant other is your family members are also very affected by your significant other's mental illness. I grew up with depression and anxiety. I wasn't diagnosed until my 20s. I've been on an antidepressant for I'd say 10 to 15 years now. It works for me. I do go to counseling on a regular basis. But when Eric's crisis happened, I focused so much on him that I forgot about myself. And I think that's something that caretakers do a lot of times. So my focus was him, to keep him alive and to keep him going for the last year and a half. And I felt by the wayside. Gained 30 pounds, stopped working out. So with that, I am now working on myself. It was tough to get him to go to treatment. He didn't want to do it, but it works. It's not easy. It does work. I've seen a change in my husband. He's Eric 2.0 now. That's what we call him. Eric 2.0. And it's an amazing thing because he's happy. And I cry when he tells his story because I never knew how much he was living with the demons. I didn't realize how unhappy he was, and he realizes now that he doesn't have to live like that. And the PTSD doesn't define him. And he's accepted it, and with this experience that we have been through, we are now sharing our story to help other people so that they know it's okay to not be okay, that it's okay to ask for help, that it's okay to, that your mental illness doesn't define you, that you can be happy, you can get help, but obviously you've got to put the work into it. Biggest thing for us is breaking the stigma. We want to break that stigma. We're all human beings. Something that this experience has helped us is in our professions. I'm a police officer in Fairfax County. My husband's a firefighter in Fairfax County. And he has a good job. So my compassion, I've always had it. My brother was a paraplegic since I was 5. My niece is mentally handicapped. I've been around mentally handicapped, physically handicapped individuals. But until really this happened, my compassion towards the mental, the mental health field, the mentally ill has changed completely. It has opened my eyes, and I know it's opened his eyes. On a daily basis, it's something that we take a passion in on helping other people. So I think that's about it. Does anybody have any questions? Sorry. Gina wasn't ready yet.
Thanks. Yeah, let me just say a few words. We do have time for questions and feedback, so start thinking about what you want to share. I think we've got a couple of people with mics. But I just want to start by thanking you so much for sharing your story. And just to underscore some of the themes that they talked about that we all need to be mindful of. How to trust each other to discuss honestly and openly challenging issues. How to reach out for help in our community. How to take care of the caregiver. And how wellness tools can get you through. We appreciated your highlighting those. So with that, who would like to speak?
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure. I know prolonged exposure therapy for post-traumatic stress, it's designed, the best way for me to describe it is I retold my story, my incident, every week to my therapist in a controlled environment. And then my homework was, I would listen to the recording of that. And over 13 weeks in essence, it kind of retrained my brain how to process that event. The gentlemen that are my friends, I refer to them really as my brothers. They were several other individuals that I went through the veteran retreat with. So it was a very controlled environment, and during that, we all shared our life story. So we have a very, very tight bond, and it was a non-judgmental zone. And so now, because of that safety, we trust each other with everything, and so we have that ability to be able to share and take care of each other. Does that answer your question, ma'am? You're very welcome.
Being a police officer, I have taken recently a CIT class. It's a fabulous class. I believe in it wholeheartedly, and for the stars aligned. We had our incident, and then I took a CIT class, so it made me even more compassionate and understanding of others and what people are going through, especially the people that I deal with every day at work. I'm very grateful to have a wonderful chief who's sitting here right over there, who has really taken on a mission to bring not only just to the first responders community that mental illness, it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to have mental illness and to receive treatment for your mental illness. And we disclose all the time. Back in September last year, it's been a year, I spoke to him about Eric and my incident, or I say incident, crisis moment. And we have a video that has been shown all over the country now for first responders, because in that culture it's very hard for us to come forward and say that we have something going on. Suicide rates are through the roof regardless in the population and are very high in first responders community. So we are sharing our story on a daily basis, essentially through the video, and just on a regular basis people are coming and talking to us about it. I do share about my depression and anxiety. I talk openly about what my husband and I have been through. He does this all the time to other firefighters, military veterans, and active duty. And on the job, it makes me connect better, and it has done the same thing for him. And I will sometimes disclose to a person that I'm dealing with at work, and that creates a little bit of a bond and a trust. Because I understand. I might not understand all of it, but I understand a little bit, if that makes sense. Did I answer all three of your questions? Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. So really, the thing that I would say helped both of us was our peers or our support networks. Because I became, Meg has her support network, I have my support network, and obviously we have each other. But I think it'd be safe to say it's not an easy road. There's bumps in the road, and a lot of communication. And I had to learn prime example. This morning I got here. I had some stuff going on outside of work, just in life, because everybody's life has ups and downs, and I was stressed, I was anxious, and Meg could see it. And she said, what's going on? I said, fine, I'm fine. And she said, no, you're not. And I had to listen to it, because she could see the outward signs long before I'll admit that something's going on.
I actually received EMDR June of 2017 myself, and it worked for me. It doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. I was not able to tell my story. My traumatic night is him going MIA, and I thought he had good diagnosis. So they did EMDR on me, and it really it did help me. But like I said, it depends on the person, and so it's just something that did work for me, but it doesn't work for everybody.
I was just going to add that EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing, who may not be familiar with that technique.
We are, in the police department and the fire department, are being trained on crisis intervention training, and it's a very good program. We are very progressive. This county is very progressive, and so are all the neighboring counties. I wasn't there, so I can't speak about your incident, but there are certain times where if you're endangering yourself or others, then we have to obviously take action. And we need to make sure that we're safe, and everybody else is safe. And in regards to the stigma, there is a stigma, and that's why we're here speaking about it. Because, just because we are police and fire doesn't mean that we're not affected too. We're just like everybody else. And, the way that we break the stigma is by talking about it, and by being here.
No, currently I'm not being medicated, but Meg did mention I currently do see a psychologist every other week to continue my therapy. And like I said, when I talk, whether it's being on medication, going to therapy, group sessions, whatever program your doctor or therapist has you on, one of the things I learned was I had to stick to it. I had to do the work. I know when I first started, I kind of thought, like, okay, I'm going to see this psychologist and she's magically going to make me better. But I learned real quick that I was the one that had to put the work in if I wanted to get better. And I had to be consistent with it. I couldn't miss appointments or skip a week. I had to make my regular appointments and stick to whatever the new program was, whether it was medication or whatever.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. For me, I don't react. I don't listen to the titles or the labels that are put on people. As Meg has mentioned, me going through my crisis and everything I've been through has really opened my eyes up to the world. And like she said, the reason we're out here is I want to break the stigma. I don't like the labels. My post-traumatic stress does not define who I am.
That's right.
And so, if someone would refer to Meg as being anxious or depressed, that doesn't define her. She's Meg. It's no different than someone that has any other medical problem. If someone's got a heart problem, the heart problem does not define who they are. So I don't react to labels. I don't react to what other people want to label or categorize somebody as.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning. And what a pleasure it is to be amongst you all. today. You know, so I'm in recovery myself, and sometimes I kind of use this analogy of, you know, if I want to kind of to analyze how well my recovery is, I kind of look at my feet. You know, don't necessarily look at what I'm saying, but look at what I'm doing. And part of that, a big part of recovery is just showing up. And you all have shown up today, and thank goodness that you're all here. So why don't you give yourselves a big hand just for showing up for today. Thank you all for being here. So today, our theme for the conference is embracing our best selves. And one of the things that we started talking about as we kind of dove into that theme a little bit was recognizing, as Wendy said when she started off, how recovery is an individual journey. It is an individual journey, but it's also engaging in our community and creating the support systems that we need to be able to remain healthy. And one of the things that I've always thought, I've been working in this field for about 15 years or so, and my own lived experience involves substance use and mental health issues. And people come into this thing from different perspectives. And one of the things that allowed me to keep an open mind about recovery was when I came in, they said, hey, look, you know, we're going to make some suggestions, and you can take them if you want, but you can kind of figure this thing out on your own. So it became, you know, my personal journey, something that I could own. So one of the things that we wanted to do in this next session was to to create a panel of people that were in recovery that we felt demonstrated that they worked recovery in their everyday life. And what I hope that we're going to be talking about, the theme for the next hour is going to be hope. And we want to start this off with a video that we've been working on for the last year or so. We got a small grant from the Department of Behavioral Health to do something to promote recovery. So this was a grant that was shared amongst all of the CSBs in the Northern Virginia area. And we want to start off by showing this brief video called "This is Recovery."
So when we talk about recovery, I think sometimes the best way to start is to compare and contrast it to older models and older ways of thinking about these issues. And when we think about what preceded a more recovery-based way of thinking, you know, we could describe that particular style as being more unidirectional. It was more about the doctor or the therapist giving a recommendation, giving a suggestion, and then the person would be expected to hopefully follow that suggestion. Therefore, it was less collaborative, and the focus primarily was on symptom control and symptom management, and that really was seen as, I think, the main priority. The recovery model really expands the frame. So now we're not just talking about a person and his or her symptoms. Now we're talking about how that person connects to other people and how that person connects to the world around him, and moving beyond symptoms. What I describe as the top of the pyramid in the recovery model is really what I call functional recovery, which has a lot more to do with work and school and relationships and what can you do to really, you know, again, bring a lot more dimensions to your life. So recovery, I think, really incorporates more of the idea of a full personhood rather than simply somebody who's suffering with a particular set of symptoms. And in addition to that, I would describe it as a lot more collaborative. So it's less unidirectional and much more of a discussion, a collaboration, a conversation even between the person who's at the center of the recovery effort and all of the people that are supporting them in moving forward. There is often a sense, people have explained to me, of losing sight of sort of who they are, what they're about, and in that sense, the establishment or the reestablishment or the recovery or redefinition of an identity can be very important. Sometimes in the process of being ill, that can get lost.
I knew something was wrong when my depression became absolutely debilitating.
I wasn't talking, I was isolating myself, I was acting strange.
I set out this one day to seek revenge on everybody that had did me wrong or took advantage of me.
You know, I stopped caring about myself, I stopped caring about my friends, I stopped caring about my family members, I stopped caring about strangers, I stopped caring about everything.
I first knew something was wrong in my life when I was facing down multiple felonies and many years in prison.
I was in a place where I was drinking to cope, I turned to drugs, I actually lost my condo, couldn't pay the mortgage payments anymore because I lost my job.
Then behind closed doors is when the depression come in and the thoughts of suicide or hurting someone. It just, you know, it was just wearing me down. And I had to stop myself. So I shot myself in order to stop myself from hurting other people.
The recovery model is predicated on the idea and really the fact that people can recover. So it's important when we speak of recovery and treatment in a recovery frame that we see a hope, that we see the possibility of recovery, that we even see the likelihood of recovery.
I first found hope in the recovery community. It was the first time I had met a group of people that thought like I did and felt the way I did. And they showed me that there was a better way to live.
You know, a lot of people held hope for me until I could find hope in myself. And it was, you know, while I really hated them for it at the time, my family were the ones who really started my road to recovery.
I found hope in a hallucination, actually. It was a very spiritual hallucination. To me, it was the spirit of my grandmother as a hummingbird telling me to hang in there.
Hope was brought to me by others, whether it have been family and friends at the time, whether it was even maybe a doctor or a nurse. They instilled hope in me.
It's more than a group to me. It's like a family, because it's things where I can go there and discuss with my other group members that I can't talk to anybody else.
But I would always see people walking around smiling and laughing, and Trillium was a place where there were other individuals that had a mental illness or disability. And I began to want what they had. I wanted to have that smile, I wanted to have that little bit of joy, so that's where I found my hope.
You know, the idea here is that everybody has something to bring to the table. And whether it's a talent, a strength, even just a personal quality, these are the things that become extremely important in recovery, because rather than a sole focus on what's going wrong, there also is a real effort to understand what is going right, what could be going right, and what that person's qualities are that we could perhaps help to support so that they can grow in the directions that they want to grow in.
I decided to take an active role in my recovery when it was pointed out to me that I would start feeling better if I started helping other people that had similar problems to the ones I did with substance use disorder.
Was actually after my mom died of leukemia. Met another person who was a peer recovery specialist. She told me, she said, if you can't do it for you, do it for her.
My main motivation was a lot of people thought that I would fail. So I just wanted to show, you know, them that I could do this.
The medications have helped me tremendously, and by taking the medication, it alleviated some of the pain. Knowing that the pain can be alleviated motivated me to go forward.
Having hope that I could still chase my dreams, no matter what has happened to me or how old I was, or what challenges stood in my way or what circumstances I found myself in.
The people that I had around me didn't push me, but they encouraged me. The more they encouraged me, the more it gave me an inner power, and an inner strength to want to improve.
Recovery is much more of a collaborative process. It's more of a conversation, a dialogue with the person who's recovering sort of at the center, and the people that are helping him or her to recover kind of engaged with that person.
Being in charge of my recovery enables me to have the dignity of failure and the dignity of risk. Being allowed to make mistakes and being able to be forgiven for them. Everyone deserves second chances. I don't see why I should be any exception.
To be in the driver's seat of my own recovery, to me, means that look on every moment as an opportunity for growth, whether that be a challenge or a celebration.
I can determine which way my life will go.
I'm in control of myself, my actions. I want to take control of my recovery, whether it be working with my therapist, working with my doctor.
I feel like I'm in control of my destiny. I feel like I can pursue my passion and do what I want with my life.
I do have challenges every day, but I find that my journey is now mine, and I have a choice and a chance to make a difference in how I press forward.
In order to recover, it's helpful for somebody to be connected to themselves, to others, to people in their life that they can trust, who are supportive to them. It could be friends, family, care providers, whoever it is. And often, connectedness can even extend and transcend personal relationships into connecting to something greater than oneself. And many people in recovery speak of that as well.
The healthiest thing to do in early recovery, my experience has been, is to put a little bit of distance between, myself and my family of origin, and just learning to love them from a distance a bit until I can get the support I need from the recovery community.
My relationship is with my family and a friend. They're behind me 100%, because they know the type of person that I am and what I'm capable of doing. So they only want to see me do good.
I enjoy having people in my life. I don't always want to strike up a conversation, but I'm also not afraid to start one anymore.
I could run down a list of people, but I have a great support system.
I have to say that connecting with others in a more profound way has really encouraged me to work on my social anxiety and talk to others.
It's very important for me to not live in the past, not forecast into the future. Otherwise, I'm not able to focus on the now.
Even if we begin from a position of feeling marginalized or disempowered, that we can hopefully move towards becoming more empowered, and that we as recovery partners can help a person in feeling and moving towards a state of empowerment.
Reaching out for help is the most important thing anybody can do, and understanding and seriously knowing that you're not alone when combating mental health or substance use challenges.
And it might sound cliche, but it does get better. And once I learned to respect myself and no longer run from thoughts or emotions, but face them no matter how difficult it might seem, I feel like I can conquer the world.
Find something inside yourself and then do whatever you can to get it. Once you do get it, reach out and improve it, and never turn away an open hand.
They deserve to feel better, and they deserve to take an active role in their recovery.
always remember, it's someone else out there. Just reach out your hand. Someone will grab it.
I think if I could pass on one thing to anybody who is watching this video, there is absolutely hope out there. You know, go out there, find other people in the recovery community, get the help you need. You know, don't give up on yourself. Don't think, you know what, maybe recovery will work for other people, but it's not gonna work for me. You know, why not you? Why can't you get it too? And you can. You just gotta be willing to ask for help and be open to the suggestions of other people who have been there before you.
So that's collaboration that we had worked on. There, if you noticed anybody, did anybody notice anybody familiar in that? Yeah. We have some of the stars here. Nick, and we have anybody else in the audience? Shay? Shay, stand up. They'll be signing autographs afterwards. So one of the things that we wanted to try to do is, you know, is to try to show, you know, a different perspective, a little bit different perspective. So we have 4 panelists that are going to be talking with us this morning, and then we'll give you an opportunity to comment and tell us about your message of hope. We have Jelna Harris, we have Nick Yakub, we have Antna Gupna, and Brooke Mello. And so what we're going to do is, I'm going to allow them to kind of introduce themselves. And the first question that I've asked them to kind of address is it's not really a question, but tell us your story of recovery. You know, what was it like? What led you to make the choice to pursue recovery? And then what is it like now? So we'll start with Kelly.
I'm going to come up here so I have something to lean on because I'm nervous, and that'll help. So, my name's Jalna, and I'm in recovery for all of the above. Growing up, I really thought I suffered from, well, I did suffer from codependency, low self-esteem, didn't feel any value, no sense of self because of such a traumatic background of abuse, neglect, and so on, emotionally and others. So growing up in my 20s and 30s, I really struggled with depression, and I have PTSD, and I didn't turn to a drug or alcohol. I went to sleep, and I slept for 2 decades. And when I was tired, I slept. When I was bored, I slept. When I was depressed, I slept. When I was anxious, overwhelmed, you name it. So, you know, my husband is an outside guy. He would do the outside playthings with the kids, get them fed, and I would do the listening and the talking with them. So I provided emotional support. But physically, I just couldn't, when you have PTSD, you spend 90% of your energy trying to survive your day. There's nothing left. I was underdiagnosed, undermedicated, undercared for, because I didn't think I was worth being cared for. In 2012, I went in my first crisis that I knew it was called a crisis. I went to the CSB. Back then it was Woodburn. And I went into a place called Crisis Care. And I went for 20 days. And it saved my life. So that I have gone further in recovery in these last few years than I have in the previous few decades. So, and I brag about crisis care. I work in emergency services at Maryfield now. And when I meet someone in crisis, if they can hear it, if they can listen, I'll slip in. Have you been to crisis care? I love it. It's great because you get a counselor in the morning, you get groups, you get a counselor at night. I stayed there for 20 days. I met a peer specialist. Her name's Monique. She knows I share this. She raised her hand and said, I have a mental health diagnosis and I work here. And so I raised my hand and I said, my name is Jana, I want to do that too. It was then that I learned that I had a mental illness, because I thought I just had depression. I wasn't like I won't call them out, my family members and associates that I knew. I just thought I had depression. I minimized it because I thought I'm dumb, I'm crazy, I'm lazy. There's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough. So I started taking the trainings, the seminars, the classes that were offered. In 2013, there was a peer recovery specialist training at CSB, and it was a big deal. 50 people applied, 20 people went to the training, and I think there was 5 of us who were hired. Marianne Cheney's in here, Gina's in here, hey. So I got the opportunity to start doing peer support work. I've been in crisis since. However, every day I practice being well. And the way I did it was by watching Oprah, watching Dr. Phil, because that was back then, watching infomercials, reading books, and practice. I thought if Oprah can do it, I could do it. So I went from this to this, and I practice every day, and it's affirmations and it's sharing with other people. The way I stay in recovery is by helping other people that's a fact. Because I get the opportunity to meet people in different phases of their life, different stages. So many of my peers are in this room. I recognize so many people from peer support group and friends and classes, and it's just amazing. That video is amazing, this conference is amazing, this whole thing. If you get it, you got it, go with it. And I would say, if I could share something, act as if. If you feel safe enough to move a little bit, stand up, walk straight, say hi. Say hi to people. It scares them. They are shocked, but say hi. People ask me at work how I'm doing, and I keep doing this and I can't stop. I keep saying super great. And because they want to talk about the traffic. How bad was the traffic? They have to work. What day? It's always what day it is and how many hours they have to work. So, but slowly, we're going to change the world. Slowly. Maybe fast, I don't know. So practice being as if. Find a safe person to work out your stuff. I too had prolonged exposure trauma therapy, and it worked. It is hard, and I recommend, we heard about that this morning, him going through that. It is hard work. It is very scary. My therapist said when we finish, you're going to be happier, you're going to be more confident, you're not going to be scared, because when you have PTSD, you think the world is scary. And it did work, and it was great. So work out your stuff, find support, practice wellness, be well. Be well.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick Yakub, and I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. And what that means for me is I haven't had any drugs, including alcohol, in over 10 years at this point. And as a result of that, my life's gotten a whole lot better. Opioids are a part of my story because we are currently going through an opioid crisis. So if you're out there and you're struggling with that, there is hope, there is help available. There's a lot of focus in the recovery community right now geared specifically towards opioids and recovery from that. How did I know something was wrong? What was going on with me in the beginning? What it used to be like? I'm not going to bore you with war stories or a massive drug-a-log. I did everything under the sun. I started using when I was 10 years old. I got into recovery when I was 21. And I'll talk about the more intimate, emotional parts of it. there was a lot of fear, a lot of self-centered fear, a lot of self-loathing, a lot of, I just didn't fit in with the world. I didn't feel right with, what was going on around me and how I related to others. I always felt different. When I was 10, a neighbor, said, "Hey, do you want to come smoke a joint?" And I didn't even know what he was talking about. It was just kind of, all I heard was, "You want to come hang out?" Because I was lonely and I was isolated, and didn't feel like I quite fit in. So you fast forward and you add a whole lot of other drugs on top of it. 21 years old, I'm already a convicted felon. I'm getting arrested for more felony charges, and at this point in my life, I'm heavily under the influence, and it's amazing how two conflicting thoughts can exist in the mind at the same time. Some people in this room might relate to this, but I was having suicidal ideation at the exact same time I was convinced I was just partying and having fun. That I still had control over what the substances were doing in my life. Was locked up, spent about 4 or 5 days experiencing primary symptoms of withdrawal. DTs, shakes, auditory hallucinations, vomiting blood. Again, 21 years old, not even a full year of legally drinking at this point. A lot of my illegal drug use kind of funneled into that. I ended up leaving the classification unit of the Loudoun County Adult Detention Center, and I met a fellow in the recovery community. And he pointed out to me that if I always do what I always did, I'll always get what I always got. If nothing changes, nothing changes. I'm not responsible for having this disease, but I am responsible. Once I am armed with the knowledge that I have this disease, I am responsible for my recovery. And I'm not going to say that I had some grand moment right then and there. I was still planning on ripping and running as soon as I got released from jail. I did what all tough guys do. I ran to mommy and daddy. And I wound up going to a 28-day treatment program in the middle of the state. And, I'd acquired a mentor from the recovery community who pointed out to me, "Nick, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling out, when you're feeling bad about yourself, when you want to go use, get high, whatever, go out there and find someone worse off than you and help them out." I was like, "All right, yeah, that's cool, I can do that, sure." And where it changed for me, and this is a truly dynamic moment in my life. They said, "Nick, we don't have enough room in the druggy buggy to take everyone to the outside meeting, and we've got 2 new detox patients here. You're the senior resident of the community here. Why don't you grab some recovery literature off the shelf and just do a little impromptu support group in the kitchenette with these 2 detox clients." A little bit of background about this treatment program. I had my cell phone, I had internet access, I had my Xbox with me. Halo 2 was pretty popular back then. And it was a coin toss between me playing my Xbox and me actually doing what I was asked. So, for whatever reason, I did what was asked of me. I grabbed some recovery literature off the shelf. I started reading a chapter about how this thing supposedly works. And there's this guy sitting to my left. I don't remember much about him, so he could have been that important. And there was a woman sitting to my right that reminded me an awful lot of my mother. And as I'm reading, she puts her hand on top of my forearm and she starts crying these tears of relief or joy, something. And it was just so awkward that all I could do was keep reading. And I did that for the next hour and a half until the druggy buggy came back to the treatment program. And something changed in me. I never saw that woman again, by the way. But she had a very profound effect on me. I wish I remembered her name. I wish I knew more about her, but I never saw her after that. And 2 things happened that night. I went to bed feeling very good about myself, and I couldn't figure out why. Hindsight being what it is, hopefully 2020 some of the time. I realized 2 very important things. It was okay for me to take direction. I'm a very, very rebellious person. When somebody tells me to do something, my first reaction is, oh yeah, watch this. Some of you that have this disease, maybe you can relate to that. I don't know. It was okay to take direction. It was okay to do what was indicated by others. I didn't have to rebel. Nothing bad happened when I decided to just kind of play along and go along with what was being asked of me. And the second thing was this. I felt very good because I did something selfless for another human being, and that was the first time in a very long time I had done something for another human being without any thought of reward whatsoever. I didn't think for a second about, well, what's in this for me? It's an interesting paradigm. I serve others, and I reap the rewards. Now, I need to throw in a little caveat here, because selfishness gets a very bad rap in our world. There are two different kinds of selfishness in my experience. There is selfishness out of self-love and self-care, and that is very important. And that is a hard-learned lesson I had to pick up. And then there is selfishness at the expense of others. During my using career, I got very familiar with that. And there is a difference. I mean, let's be honest. No one here really wants to have an up-close and personal conversation with me if I don't brush my teeth and wear deodorant. That's an act of self-love and self-care. Making the bed in the morning, doing my laundry on a regular basis. You know, these are things that I regularly neglected while I was under the influence. You know, taking care of my finances. When I got in recovery, I didn't even know how to write a check. You know, which is interesting because usually forging checks is an average part of most people's career with this disease, but I didn't get into it. I found other more nefarious means to support my disease. You know, I graduated from there. I'm a product of the Fairfax Falls Church Community Services Board, where I'm now employed, thankfully, and very grateful. Back in the day, part of the Community Services Board was known as Alcohol and Drug Services, and I went to a 90-day treatment program known as A New Beginning in Chantilly, Virginia. And I made a lot of people that later became my compatriots and coworkers. There was a woman by the name of Deborah Quisenberry. She did my intake while I was at Waitlist Group through CSB. I've had the honor and privilege of working with the Waitlist Group. I've had the honor and privilege of working at A New Beginning. I've had the honor and privilege of actually bringing in peer support groups into the Loudoun County Adult Detention Center where I got sober. You know, these are all gifts of recovery, but what I can say is this. That's external stuff. You know, it's a beautiful thing to rebuild relationships with family. It's a beautiful thing to be a productive, contributing member of society. It's a beautiful thing to manage my finances. It's a beautiful thing to have meaningful relationships. And, you know, I have more friends than I have nights of the week to spend time with. You know, it's a beautiful thing to go out there, watch sunsets, to go hiking in the woods, stand on top of mountains and look down over, you know, the valley. It's a beautiful thing to go whitewater rafting, skiing. It's a beautiful thing to be able to throw Recovery Unhooked, which was a recovery-themed electronic dance music event we had at George Mason University a few weeks back for National Recovery Month, September. We had over 200 people there from the recovery community that were dancing, partying, having a good time without booze or any other drugs. It was a beautiful thing. That's all external stuff. I'm going to tell you the top 3 gifts recovery has given me. Number 1, I am comfortable in my own skin today. That was not something I could claim while I was out there. Number 2, I can look in the mirror and I don't hate what's looking back at me. And number 3, probably the most important to me, I'm not a chameleon anymore. I don't have to shape shift, to blend in with this group of people, to manipulate them, to get what I want out of them, and then be over here and be a totally different person. I'm consistent. I'm the same person whether I'm talking to y'all, whether I'm talking to my boss, whether I'm talking to my family, my girlfriend, whoever it is. I can be the same person. I don't have to be a shapeshifter. Now, that being said, there are filters. You know, there are certain things that are appropriate with one person or group of people versus another. But it's the difference between secrecy and privacy. Don't need to elaborate too much more on that. What it's like today is something truly beautiful. If you're out there, you're struggling, you're not alone. Okay, there's 7 billion people on this planet plus, okay? If there's a name for it, it's been done before. There are people out there with experience that can help you. You are not alone, unless you choose to be. Go out there, seek the recovery community, get the help you need, and when you feel stable enough, turn around, give it back to other people, that which was so freely given to you. Thank you all for your time.
Great job, Nick.
You got this, bro.
All right, my name is Antena. Thank you again for having me here, the county, the Northern Virginia Foundation, and also everyone who's here today. Means if we're here today, that means we have broken the stigma, means we have accepted our challenges. And mostly from the past 3 years, especially after getting a lot of trainings about peer support, we are not our sickness. We don't want to use our diagnosis as our identity. If you take myself as an example, the only time I remember the diagnosis I'm in and the medication I'm taking when my alarm goes off at the time of taking the medication. Until then, I'm just another human being. So saying that, I want to thank my dad who's here with us, support me. He's 68, he's also being challenged with early age of dementia, and when he stepped out, I was worried first he was going to get lost, whether he's going to make it back or not, but he made it back. So now I'm happy to present what I'm presenting. If you see the brochure you guys had, my name is spelled different, probably pronounced different in the category, and it talks about a little bit about myself. So let me tell you a little bit about behavioral health services back home in Ethiopia, mainly in Addis Ababa, because that's where the resources is for the country. Mental health and alcohol use or substance use, they don't come together. Right now, back home, we are only focused on the mental health part of it. Nobody is addressing alcohol use challenges or substance use challenges. That's considered okay, that's a route someone took to use or chose to go under, and we're not addressing that issue. That's like someone made a choice kind of attitude. When it comes to mental health, still as of today, majority of it is treated with spirituality treatment. They don't consider the clinical, the therapy, the doctors' services as a priority. So I come from that background, and I myself, in 2003, and when I was in California, had the first mental health challenges, not because I was using alcohol or substance use, just maybe I have it in my gene, or it happened to me. It can happen to anybody. I had my first incident in 2003. Within 1 month, I was in and out of hospitals at least 4 times, which they couldn't figure out what kind of diagnosis it is, and they couldn't figure out what kind of medication they can give me. Then I decided I want to come to where my dad and my brothers are here in Alexandria, Virginia, and started my treatment here. So the first time I learned about the term recovery actually is about a year and a half, or a year in Fairfax County. When I was with the city of Alexandria, I never heard of recovery. even the option of recovery. It's just going back and forth of medication, treatment. I had different, they call it clinically crisis, means relapses within the last 12 years, 13 years. With the recent one, which was in 2015, which I was a full-time employee in a bank, my lifestyle also has changed because I had a family, I had a newborn baby, almost a year old, a new marriage, and life was stressful. And my job requirement became very demanding, and it became stressful, and I got into crisis. Then, sooner or later, I had to move to Fairfax County, and I ran into the program, very exciting, where they say there is such thing called peer support. Wow. There, I've been looking for this opportunity for the last 10 years. So through that route, in order to become peer support specialist, I had a job coach. My therapist was helping me. They were showing me guidance, and that helped me really my recovery. That showed me hope. Through all these challenges, I can become somebody. I can live again. I can have a job. So striving that hope, getting through different trainings, I became a volunteer at the Peer Resource Center for 2-3 months, then applying for a job and things, striving and making all the appointments and just being committed. So now, this October, it's been 1 year I've been working for the Fairfax County Emergency Services as a peer support specialist. So while all this recovery, what do I do daily? Means I still go to my therapist every 2 weeks. I still see my doctor every 2 months. I still take my medication every day. I get up every morning. I'm the one who prepares my daughter to school. Dress her up, feed her, drop her to school. That's my hope, that's my inspiration. I'm doing that. That gives me hope and recovery that I can function like any other person. So that's what I'm doing, and at the same time at work, if any of you who are in a job, especially with peer support, I highly advise to take advantage of the supervision part of the session, where the supervisors gives you at least an hour or 2 hours a week to talk to them about the situation, because some of the experiences you might experience can be difficult. So I take the advantage of that also as a therapy, talking about from personal issues even at home, challenging, because you have to care yourself, self-care if you have self-issues, and also with cases that are difficult at the job. So this is all I can say, and as long as you're here, we have broken the stigma, and thank you.
You know, it's never good to be a guy between 200 people in lunch, is it? So, you know, this is sort of our first time speaking outside of a recovery meeting. You know, my name is Burke, and I'm going to speak to you like I'm in me. Because we call it the language of the heart. You know, that's what I want to do for the next 1 or 2 minutes. I'm an alcoholic addict, and my sobriety day is March 9th, 1993. And if I took a drink today, it would take me about 2 days to get back right to where I was on March 8th, 1993. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm also getting a master's in addiction science at the BC School of Medicine, and I now have all the neurobiology. You know, I know all the information about what, you know, alcohol and drugs, how they change the way I felt, and I understand what alcohol would do to me right now if I picked up a drink. You know, it would start those neurotransmitters again, You know, just pick everything right back up again. To where I would go out and I'd maybe pick up a beer on the way home and that didn't work. And I'd pick up 2 beers tomorrow and that didn't work. And well, maybe it's not beer, maybe it's vodka, maybe I need that. You know, let's do that, and that didn't work. Well, I tried that about 30 days into treatment, and that's what happened. Within 4 days, I was back drinking a liter of vodka a day, and I hadn't drank for 3 weeks. So that's when I became convinced, and that's when I got on my knees and said, you know what, if there's anything out there that can help me right now, I can't handle it anymore. I can't do it. You know, at the time, I remember my wife looking at me standing at the top of the stairs, looking down at me, just going, you know what, this thing's got the best of you. And I don't know what you're going to do about it. I can tell you exactly what the cup looks like that I took my last drink out of. I can still picture it in my head today. Over 25 years later, I can tell you exactly what it looks like. And that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing. You know, at that time, we had been married for about 12 years. Our son at that time was 5. I was drinking and also stealing his rhythm that he needed to function in first grade at that time. And my wife couldn't figure out why he was having problems at school. But eventually, I agreed to go to treatment at that time. And she said to me, she said, you do what you need to do, and I'll do what I need to do. And we lived in the same house, and I started going to meetings, and I started putting a program of recovery underneath me. But I also needed the support of the mental health community at the same time, from the people in IOP, because they taught me that I needed to take care of the whole person, just like everybody else is shared in here. You know, I needed to rebuild my relationships with new people that didn't drink or use drugs. And to be honest with you, at the end, there weren't that many people hanging around me anyway. You know, when you get to that point, it just gets like that. But the mental health community taught me that I needed to take care of my diet, how I worked out, how I took care of myself mentally, what I was going to do, and taught me to treat the whole person while also I was taking care of going to meetings and getting that ability to stay sober and clean underneath me. And it's, as people shared, you just take it every day. And I can honestly tell you that when I tell you I'm an alcoholic addict, it is absolutely the freaking coolest thing in the world. Because for some reason, excuse me as I said, for some reason, God gave me this thing to give me enough pain to let me physically to actually take a look at myself through no other vehicle anybody could bring into my life other than just enough pain, not to quite kill me, but to me to take a look at myself and start to work again. And I can promise you that work, and that's what happened to me, has helped influence the lives of hundreds, if not thousands of other people behind me that we've come into contact with since then. I promise you, I know that. And so that's what we do, is to make sure that we use our experience, strength, and hope of other people to let them know that they've got hope. Every day, it is like Christmas, okay? Every day I wake up is like Christmas. There's a lot of hope. I don't know what I'm going to get. Didn't say it was going to be necessarily the best Christmas ever. I don't know what I'm going to get that day. But, you know, I have a chance today, you know, and every time I get up. So now, what we're doing is, you know, at 58, I retired after 20 years. I said, I'm out of the business world. I'm going to go back and actually physically do something outside of my work within the recovery community and go get my master's back in addiction science at ECU and bring it back into the collegiate community within it. And that's where Mark Blackwell and I know Tom Banner. And Tom Banner runs the Range Recovery Program at ECU. So now what you got is, you got a 60-year-old graduate student in the recovery clubhouse attending recovery meetings, you know, with 22-year-old college students. And they look at you like, really? I mean, you're like grandpa. But the deal about it is that after the 45 minutes or an hour is up, as the meeting's up, they look at you with a whole nother look because you actually shared something that has actually been a benefit to them, to help them maybe keep sober and tell them, you know what, it's going to be okay for another day, as long as you go ahead and do what you need to do. And then finally, the last issue is also, it's very important to me that I deal with what I know, okay? My wife and I went out to dinner last week and just celebrated our 37th wedding anniversary. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be sober today. If it wasn't for her to stand there and stand by me and give me some hope in that area, you know? And the important thing is that we just go ahead and help work from that position of strength. I can tell people how to stay married. Okay, you do not want to get marriage advice from someone who's been divorced 5 times. Okay, it's not. And by the same token is, I work and I sponsor a ton of people, and a ton of people come in, and people come to me and say, I suffer from depression, I suffer from this, I suffer from anxiety, along with substance abuse problems. And I have the resources today that are not me to help them deal with those other issues that they have. I can help them with their substance abuse. But it's important, once again, it's the whole person that we get them to the right place and where they need to be. And then by doing that, you know, it keeps us all sober. So thank you.
So this is one of the things that is so valuable for my own recovery is being able to listen to stories of our panelists. And I personally can identify with something out of every one of the stories that I've heard from them. And that's, you know, that's part of my routine and part of what I do on a regular basis is to commune with my fellow recoveries so that it reinforces that, you know, I identified with what Bert said. You know, I've proven to myself over and over again that to drink, you know, for me it would lead me down a path where, you know, I would, it would, you know, my life would spiral out of control. So I can identify with a little bit of what everybody has said here. So we've got about 10 minutes or so, and I wanted to give you all an opportunity. If anybody out there had a particular message of hope or some of their experience and hope of recovery, then do we have some people with microphones out there? I think we can. Yeah. And you can direct your questions to the panelists, or you can just make a comment about your own personal recovery experience.
It goes back to my life. So, I was fortunate, and I'll be brief. I mean, I started out. I owned an insurance agency. I lost that. The state corporation commission thought it would be a good idea that I was not in that business anymore. And so I'm back in 1993. So I started out working day labor at $3 an hour when I was 35 years old. Worked all the way up to just retiring, building most of Amazon's fiber optic network in Northern Virginia over the last 8 years up here. Now, that being said, I got tired of that at the end they were great people to work with and work for, but I was tired of being on the cell phone 18 hours a day. And my wife has a great job, we have health insurance, so that's, courage is easy. When your wife has a job and you have great health insurance, it's easy to say you got courage. If without her support, I couldn't have had that. Financially, I'd done that, and I was able to get back into grad school. They did not let me in initially in grad school. It took me 5 years to get out of college with a 2.01 in 1981. But they let me in general classes within grad school, and I pulled a 4.0 my first year. And in New Pharmaceuticals, now based my scholarship on academic scholarship, as I'm working on my thesis right now. So, you know, I don't think, you know, courage is just judging the situation and seeing, you know, what was the best I could do with it. So.
When I was 17 months into my recovery, I went to the judge and he said, you know, Mr. Yacoub, I'm so glad you turned your life around, you're going to jail anyways. And I ended up serving a year in jail. After I got out, I had about 2.5 years of continuous recovery, you know, survived that experience. I decided to go back to school. And so I was, what, 23, 24, 25, I don't remember. I'm at that point now where I don't even remember how old I am. You know, but I went back to school, and it was interesting for me, you know, not drinking, not getting high, you know, surrounded by a lot of people that were about 18, 19, 20 years old, because that was the grade level at which I dropped out of, you know, school to go get arrested and get into treatment. For me, I related to the people that were on campus that had more life experience. I spent a lot of time hanging out with veterans that were returning back from Iraq and Afghanistan, because they were the other people that were in my age group that seemed to have real life experience. And they had a different appreciation and perspective for what was going on around them. So when I was on campus, those were the people I chose to associate with. When I was off campus, I would go to my recovery support systems out in the community. And there's a whole bunch of different ones out there. You know, everyone knows about 12-step, but there's also Refuge Recovery, which is a Buddhist alternative to 12-step. There's Smart Recovery, which is a rational and motor behavioral therapy approach support system for recovery from substance use. You know, there's faith-based stuff out there. So whatever the support would look like for you to go through that, jump on board by all means. You know, whatever's going to help you get through that experience, utilize that. And fortunately, you know, it's 2018 now. We're living in a day and age where we're seeing a lot of collegiate recovery, communities start to spawn. You know, VCU's Rams in Recovery. George Mason University has Patriots for Recovery. There are support groups on campus these days. I go back to what I said earlier. You are not alone.
Okay. Let's not forget.